Hello, I am Michelle L. Forbes, and you are tuned into the Win Win Live talk show and podcast. Welcome. It's a fine Sunday afternoon from where I'm sitting. How about you? Just before we jump into the mix of things, can I take just a moment to remind you that you are a winner? Not sure what it is that you would have been going through. Not sure how your year 2022 has been so far to this month, November, the month just before we hit the last one for the year. But I just want to tell you, as the intro was playing, it just came within my heart just to remind you that you are a winner despite the losses that you would have experienced in this 2022 and probably the year before and the year before. Can I just remind you that you are a winner, that you have been branded a winner from within as a part of your DNA? Yeah. As you tune into this show this afternoon, we are in for a treat. We are sitting with one of our sages. Yes, one of the minds that would have been tracking this path on earth called life longer than probably a number of us who will be tuned in. So she has some wealth of knowledge, insight, exposure, revelation, lessons that she can learn, that she can teach and relate to us. Some nuggets that we can grab and say, okay, that's for me. That's right where I'm at. That's what I need for this present moment. Be blessed today. And just before I introduce to you our guest, let me share a little bit about her. Mistress Euphemia Brice-Roberts. Who is she? She is founder and CEO of Brice-Roberts Business Consulting Services. She has served at senior management levels in the private and public sectors, including the Central Bank. For those who are tuned in globally, that's the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, situated in the Eastern Caribbean islands, for over 32 years, serving in roles of performance consultant, life and executive coach for more than 20 years. Remember what I said? She has some years clocking under her, right? Under her belt, right? So what does that equate to? Wealth of knowledge. Mistress Brice-Roberts recognizes the ever present need for coaching to complement technical subject knowledge. A lot of our tertiary graduates leave colleges and universities with wealth of knowledge. But coaching delivers to us some soft skills that a lot of our colleges and universities don't deliver on. For enhancing performance and achieving goals and dreams. Everyone, please welcome with me Mistress Brice-Roberts. Miss Brice-Roberts, it's a pleasure to have you join us this afternoon. Welcome to the Win Win Life talk show and podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Forbes. And I thought it was very interesting that you referred to me as sage. Thank you, but I'm not sure that I have reached there yet, although I'm still learning and sharing.
Yes. I'm not surprised that you would have said that. While I'm reading it, I'm like, I know Miss Roberts is gonna come back and say, I'm still in a learning process. And that's so true. That is so true. Whilst we are still living on earth, we have opportunities after opportunities after
Mhm,
opportunities to learn, to grow, to expand, to become
mhm.
all that God has called us to be. So, Mistress Brice-Roberts, can you share with us who is Euphemia Brice-Roberts?
Okay, I see myself as one of God's children on that journey and who is committed to really making a positive difference in the lives of others. And I really seriously think that's what God put me on earth to do.
Mm. And seriously, you're committed to making a difference in the life of others. I imagine that it's a positive, upward, forward moving difference, correct?
Yes, I thought I said positive. If I
Oh,
didn't, that was an omission
okay,
in
all
error.
right. Maybe it was I who missed it. But as
Okay.
you would have shared that that is what you really believe, why is it that that is what is seated within the core of your being, that this is why I am being afforded to take each breath each day to
Mhm.
make a positive impact and difference in the lives of others? Why do you believe that is the call that God has on your life?
I must say, it's because when I'm doing those things, when I'm helping persons, when I'm listening and sharing, I just feel I come alive. And even as I was speaking with you some time ago, I think we could all have an idea of what our purpose in life is when we consider ourselves as children, what dreams we had. I remember as a child, I used to beat the chairs so that they would listen. So, I was teaching from then as a child. What I discovered as I grew older is that in terms of my making that positive difference, it would really be from about age 12 up, where I could see persons really learning. I thought that younger than that is like they take too long to learn. So I believe God would have gifted somebody else to take care of that level.
So the little itty bitties is not your
Yes,
gifting.
that's not my gift. That's not my gift, and very comfortable with recognizing that's
Yes.
not my gift, as I fully recognize where my gift is.
Yes, absolutely. And that is so key that too often, Miss Roberts, and maybe you can weigh in on this. A lot of times we look at the person over to our right and the person to our left and it's like, wow, she's so gifted and effective in engaging in this activity. In this case, okay, the little ones, maybe I should try it out too. Comparison, competing, as opposed to God, what is my
Mhm,
area
mhm,
of
mhm,
expertise, my passion, my calling? Maybe
mhm,
you weigh in some on that. And I find that a number of persons, we waste a lot of time, time that we cannot buy back
mhm,
because we're looking to the left and to the right when there is our calling waiting on us saying, here, 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 I'm over here, I'm over here.
mhm, mhm. Yes,
Can
I
you
think it's a case of being open to listening to the creator.
mm,
Okay, so say for example, whoever manufactured chairs or table, who created those from a human standpoint, knew what purpose they had for it. And
absolutely.
same way, our creator knows what purpose we're on earth for. And
Yes.
this is where quiet time comes in. This
Mm,
is where prayer comes in.
mm,
Sitting, Lord, I'm in your hands. I really don't know where to go. I really don't know what to do.
true.
I would like ABC, you guide me. And it is listening. Very often we talk, a number of us like to talk,
Mhm.
including myself. I also remind myself that I need to stop and listen. And
Yes.
so it is listen to that quiet, still voice within, or even some nudge that we may get, which
Yeah.
is going to give an idea. And one of the key things, again, as we are talking about not comparing,
Yes.
when we stop and we think of what makes me light up, there is
Mm,
no need for comparison
come on.
because then it makes me light up. And one of it's very important to realize, particularly as a child, and that is why I say go back to childhood. Because
Yes.
as a child, I remember when I said at one point, the sky is the limit. You taught me that it is beyond the sky. So there's no limit, not even the sky.
Ooh,
So the whole idea is that as children, we feel we could do almost anything.
yes.
And very often, as we grow older and persons say, what do you think? You think you could do that? Then we get the damper on our dreams. So what I encourage people to do is to go back to childhood when you had no limits on yourself, and then you go and realize that other people don't know. They were not giving you a dream.
That's
So you recognize, you respect them, you listen to what they say. At the same time, you follow your dream, you follow your heart, having spoken to God, having
wow.
listened.
Okay, now you shared with us like a mouthful. One, you jumped into our flyer ahead of me because that was like I have that coming down the road where I'm going to touch on that prayer and quiet time that in our pre-interview conversation you pinpointed that, and I remember as we spoke you echoed it. You didn't just say it once, you repeated that, those two right there, prayer and quiet time, listening. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're going to pack up that. We're going to come back to it. But you mentioned, as you shared just now, hmm, as you shared, you touched on how many times we go and we do a lot of the talking. Talk, 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 talk. And God, He's such a gentleman, eh? He usually does not interrupt us. He'd let us go ahead and talk. Okay, you have a lot on your mind, so let it all out. And then usually we just get up, amen, and
Mhm.
he just sits still, quietly, the gentleman that he is, without saying a word. But one of the things, and personally, and I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this as well, one of the things I've realized from my relationship with God is that the moment we get in that quiet time, you is like your ears just begin to ring off because he has had so much to say for so long and just been waiting for us to be still and just know me as I speak, as I communicate, as I guide, as I direct. Yes, so please touch on that some more. The prayer
Yes.
time. And just a moment, as I worded the word on the flyer, we're going to be delving into the pages of your book. Mrs. Rice Roberts is a bestseller author. I am branding her that because she is going there. She's on the plane ascending. And on the fly, I worded it prayer and quiet time, her superpowers. That where is the place from which she leads through coaching, part of the names of her book. So, Miss Bryce Roberts, can you weigh in some more on that prayer and quiet time that you spoke of as we did our pre interview?
I think I think it starts with the maintenance early in the morning. It's very important for me to connect with God, connect with myself.
Yes,
So it's investing that time in prayer
yes,
and listening.
yes,
I also think in the evening, well, I guess it depends on persons. I am a morning person. So in the evening, while sometimes I intend to invest more time with the Lord, sometimes I say, God, okay, in the morning I'll be with you. So there may be some persons who may be in a position to pray and listen in the evening. For me, my time is morning time.
yes,
And going beyond that, even as we say, I listen to God, I'm also cognizant that He speaks through persons.
yes,
I remember in particular in my teenage years when I was going through some challenges. That's how I got very close with one of my friends at school. I was in around sixth form. And
wow,
so I remember she went on how many times? She said, Euphemia, what's wrong with you? Because the teachers were complaining, persons were seeing that's not the kind of person I was earlier on.
hmm,
And Euphemia, what's wrong with you? And it was one day when I couldn't take it again. I shared everything that was inside of me. And when I
mm,
was finished sharing, I thought, but wait, that was bothering you? It seemed like nothing. So it was, to me, and that is why I think we need to find at least one person who we could
yes,
speak with. And I know
yes,
sometimes we are concerned that persons may go and share the story that we have told them. But my view, the cost of them sharing is much less than us keeping ourselves choked
mm,
in with whatever the challenge is.
mm.
So as I speak to prayer and quiet time, I am recognizing it is not just only listening directly from God. I believe God speaks through the persons and situations He places in our path.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So it's have an ear tuned to him, but be
Mhm.
open to have an ear tuned to him through the voices of others.
Indeed.
Oh,
Indeed.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Hmm. So as I would have worded it, And when we met, you would have shared that in you running your business, in you leading, in you coaching and leading through your coaching, it would have only been possible, all whatever successes that you would have experiences would have only been possible through the downloads, so to speak, that you would have received by way of guidance, direction, nuggets, as you would have gleaned from your prayer time, from your quiet time. If there are persons tuned in now and they're like, prayer time, quiet time, but I don't even know if I know the voice of God. How can I now begin to go to God and to want to hear him if I don't even know his voice? Like, how do I go about it, Mistress Roberts?
I think you said earlier on that God is a gentleman and he doesn't just impose himself upon us.
Yes.
He's available. What I would say is that if for someone who is listening and who is saying, prayer, what's that? I would say, just say, God, I don't know whether you are there, but I'm hearing somebody's talking about praying. So if you are really alive, just listen to me. I'm going to talk. I don't know who I'm talking to, but I'm just speaking to you. And one of the points my mother, God bless her soul, who is past, used to say to me is that she talks to God man to man. So sometimes if I had a situation and I said, okay, Mama, I would like you to pray for me about that, I would say, Mama, please go talk to God man to man. So the whole idea is that recognizing that he is around us, and for persons who have yet to really experience it, just asking, Lord, help me to experience you. I really don't know if you are there, but I would like to experience you. So again, it is really asking for what you want. And the Bible says, ask and you shall receive.
Thank you for putting the icing on the cake. Because as you were wrapping up in your answering, that was the spirit, the scripture that dropped in my spirit. And I was just going to come in and said, and God said, ask
Mhm.
and he shall receive. And he's a
Yes,
gentleman. If he says ask, you shall receive. Because he's faithful to his word. He's faithful to his word. I'd like to share with you, audience, a bit. The name of Mistress Brice-Roberts' book is Leading Through Coaching. And I'd like to share on the excerpt, on the book blurb to the back of the book. Leading Through Coaching seeks to raise the profile of coaching. Euphemia, embracing a framework of identifying goals, reviewing progress, stating options, and agreeing action plans. I Could you tell me, is there a pronunciation to it or do you just call the letters?
Ursa.
Ur,
Ursa.
Ursa.
I say Ursa, the Ursa model.
Ursa model. The Ursa model. The Ursa model highlights critical steps in the coaching process. Critical meaning you got to have these as a part of your coaching process. It proposes a practical approach to drawing out and building upon the strengths and teams, as well as developing and facilitating the leadership of individuals and ultimately that of the organization. The name of the book again, Leading Through Coaching, a practical guide for managers and other leaders. Now, you may be listening, you're an individual. You may don't even have a business or even plan to have a business, but are you an individual? The final words of the book blurb just now was developing and facilitating the leadership of individuals and ultimately that of the organization, whatever the organization that you're planted in, your leadership skills, you being coached will benefit your personal life as the individual and the organization. And so, this practical guide for managers and leaders whom you are, we are, and I'll let Miss Brice-Roberts weigh in some more on that because the one of the topics within your book you mentioned becoming a better leader, and when I read it I'm like, so are you saying then that we're all leaders? Why you would brand it becoming a better leader? Can you share some more on that and the
Yes. My firm belief is that we are all leaders. We may lead in different avenues, but
Mm-hmm.
each of us is a leader. The mother in the home is a leader. The child coming up is a leader. The manager. Yes, we may not have the formal title, but
Mm.
when I look at, there is the definition of leadership, which I really like, of Peter Drucker, who is known
Yes.
as a management expert, where
Yes.
he says leadership is the lifting of a man's vision to higher heights, the
Mm.
raising of a man's performance to a higher standard,
Mm-hmm.
and helping persons to see beyond their normal limitations. And I
Wow.
think we all have that capability. And
Wow.
so it's a case of us recognizing that we can all lift the vision of somebody else to a higher height. And
Absolutely.
when I think of leadership, I think two key points come out is vision and influence. So it is having that idea of where persons can go,
Mm-hmm.
and then which would capture the vision, and influence, which is about what do I do to help them recognize that they could go there. And speaking of influence, there is a concept of pacing and leading. Pacing, which speaks to being at the level with the person, understanding, connecting with the person where they are at. And having done that, then you show them where you could go. What happens all too often when we get knocked with the when we get knocked down with the blows in life, we sometimes forget our wins. And so that's why I like the name of your show, Win Win. And
Ah,
so we spoke, I saw the write up that you had, and I thought that was excellent in
yes.
terms of recognizing those straight wins
Yes.
and even those areas that may not look as a win, but they are a win if you learn the lesson. And I reminded of Romans 8:28.
Yeah. Work
All
together.
things work together for good. And
Okay.
so even when as and when I speak about becoming a better leader, it's really about always looking for what is the lesson in this situation. As I'm looking at making a difference in the lives of others and making a difference in my life, lifting my own vision. What
Mm.
can I do? And that is where, in lifting my own vision, the quiet time with God, with myself,
Yes.
and lifting the vision of others, interacting with them, engaging with them, hearing where their head is at, and reminding them of their excellent potential, their high potential.
Awesome. Awesome. I'd like for you to share some more on the URSA model. And I'm going to read just an excerpt from your book, and then I'd ask for you to just share some more on the URSA model. And as Miss Brice-Roberts shares, we are sharing with you the benefits, the gold that is embedded within this text that you need to have. Identifying Identify and clarify goals and objectives. Goals and objectives serve as compasses, giving direction for achieving a vision. The goals are the signpost pointing towards the desired outcomes, while objectives are smaller steps leading towards the identified goals. As you jump in to share some more on the URSA model, I want you to share from the perspective this person saying, sure, I have goals and sure, I have objectives and I have it all up here because I don't trust writing down my goals on paper, lest somebody snatch it away. Or, I mean, I don't need to write it down. I have a good memory. I'd like for you to speak from that perspective that you're speaking to this person, whether they be an individual or in a managerial leadership position.
Okay, and
Go
I
ahead.
think I would be speaking to myself because I'm one of those who do not is not too comfortable with writing down, but
Wow.
I have realized that it is necessary. So even if we write down to offload from the brain, I'm
Yes.
saying at the individual level, from the corporate standpoint, then one would write down, that's fine. But
Yes.
from the individual personal level, that
Yes.
others may come and pick up and see and make a comment. So even if you write down in code that you understand, that
Yes.
yes, I plan to have this by whatever time. I think it is helpful in doing that. One of the points that is said is that when you write, is like it stimulates the brain and it helps you to be even more committed to taking action in that direction. So it
Wow.
is very helpful in writing down. So I am one of those not too up with it, but I eventually started writing
Wow.
and thought of, okay, and whoever sees, well, so what? So that's what I also tell myself, because I tell myself, okay, so what? So it's a case of being knowing what I want, and
Mhm.
then realizing the hesitation that I may have to others picking up on it. And then I tell myself, and if they do, aren't we all striving for something? And so they just happen to have seen it. So
Wow.
yes, so I definitely encourage that we write down. It helps in terms of the stimulation towards achieving it. And again, because it's not um, in a vacuum, because while we have written down, this is where the connection with our higher power comes in to
Yes.
take inspired action.
Yes.
Because having written down the goals, what actions do I need to take? And sometimes you may be in the bathroom and an idea just hits. Oh, yes, that's what I could do here. So
Yes.
it is sometimes, so the quiet time may be the bathroom moments. That's something, just a download, that to use your term,
Yes.
that one receives a download. So
Yes.
very key.
Yes. Wow. Mrs. Brice-Roberts, thank you for your transparency. OMG. I love it. I love it. I love it. That in as much as you would have authored this book and you would have written it within the book, you yourself, you were writing from a place of, I know this is important, but I too have a challenge with it. And
Indeed.
day by day, step by step, I am intentionally making the decision to write it down. As the scriptures declare, write down the vision and make it
Mhm,
plain.
mhm,
Make it plain so that if it's you who's running with it, or if you have a team running with it, they know exactly where to run, how to run, what to run with. They have it all structured already because it's written down and it's plain. And I love the fact that you came to the position where you said, so what? If
mhm.
he or she sees it, so what? Yeah, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. Mrs. Bryce Robert, what would have been your journey like in the writing process of this book? What was like that like? And why did you decide to write this?
Okay. Let me do the back first, the
Yes.
why in terms of that particular book, because I facilitate various seminars, and
Yes.
I've been meaning to write, actually starting with personal development books. I was not really thinking of the coaching skill to start off with there, because
Okay.
my interest is largely in persons, the soft skill, being your best self, and so.
Yes. Yes.
But when I was preparing to get the workbooks for the coaching seminar, I thought, but wait, the time I invest in putting together a workbook, I might as well invest it in doing a book, in writing a book. And besides that, actually, at a previous seminar some years before,
Yes.
one of the participants had said to me, hey, I think you really need to get into coaching. I don't remember exactly what the seminar was on.
Yes. Yes.
I think it may have been a management development.
Wow.
And actually the person is named in the book, that's Miss Mussenden in
Yes.
St. Kitts. And so so she gave me first that idea of focusing on coaching.
So
Now, in
would you say then that that was the voice of God speaking through
Yes,
her?
yes, I think God speaks to us in different ways.
Wow.
Okay, I feel so very strongly.
Yep.
Even when I was telling her about it, she doesn't remember, because when I was telling her about it, she said she doesn't remember. But I told her, well, it's clear in
Wow.
my mind that it was as a result of her speaking to me about the whole idea
Yep.
of getting into coaching that it
Yep.
helped in that direction. Now, in
Awesome.
terms of the book itself,
Mhm.
um, while I plan to write a number of books, speaking comes much more easily to me. One of the
Mm.
things I would say always is that God put me on earth to talk. Now, writing I can do. It takes much more effort on my part to write.
Yep.
And so once I get into it, yes, I get going. And thank God, again, God puts people in our path, because there are a number of persons who would have helped me in
Yes.
terms of reviewing, going back and forth. So those persons were instrumental. For example, my sister, Miss Morton, and they're acknowledged in the book. But
Yes.
those persons were very instrumental in providing that level of support towards the book reaching the completion.
Mm. Yes, awesome.
And Lord, just let me put in a little part too. Also,
Please.
our time working together would also have helped because that is where actually I had an opportunity to put into practice the whole concept of coaching.
Yes. Oh, we didn't let you guys know on a little secret. We used to work together. Yes, Miss Bryce Roberts used to be my manager at one point when I left the classroom and was in the corporate sector of the island of Nevis for a period of 2 years. Mrs. Bryce Roberts I would have been afforded opportunity. We both would have been afforded opportunity to meet and to work with each other as manager and one of the staff under which I would have been under need her leadership. And yes, as we did the pre-interview conversation, she did share that that was where she started actually putting into practice her coaching. And as we spoke, I could hear even more. And even while we were working in that institution, I said to her, we were talking the pre-interview, that I remember distinctly that she was pushing a lot on structures and systems and setting that up. Yes, this is the business and the service that we offer, but in order to offer this excellently great and yada yada yada, the structure and the system, which starts with the individual workers. I distinctly remember her just locking in and zooming in on each of us as individuals as we were a part of the staff of that institution. Thank you, Miss
Thank
Bryce Roberts. I
you.
appreciate that. I have to share. You were finished sharing just now?
Yes, for
Yes.
now.
Oh, yes. All right. Another excerpt from the text that I'd like for you to share more on. Coaching is impacted by the organization culture, which includes workplace practices and systems. As such, the practice of values like caring, empathy, while focusing on competence, helps to create a supportive coaching environment. And I know this book is structured towards an organization, but I'm telling you, as I'm reading it, I'm like looking at me. So I am the company. Michelle is the company. And so you look at it as from a personal perspective. How can this impact and influence my life? Miss Bryce Roberts, can you share some more on just that excerpt that I spoke
Yeah.
on just
I like the way you said seeing yourself as the company. I think it's a wonderful way to look at it. And
Yes.
it's really about realizing when you look at yourself that I need to care for myself.
Mm,
We cannot give to anybody what we do not have.
yeah.
And that is why we need to nurture ourselves. We cannot be too busy for ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we look even beyond, and when you started speaking about the organization, I thought you were going to go to the family, but it is relevant to the family. One
Mm,
of the statements I generally make is that the family is a small organization, and the organization where we work is a big family. So
mm,
relative to the organizational culture within our families is
yes.
also the importance of having that nurturing, caring environment so
Yes.
that our children would realize that quite apart from our desire for them to excel
Yes.
academically, intellectually, there
Yeah.
is that need for them to be that whole person, recognizing we are mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
environment is important. One, a culture of caring, a culture of love.
Yes. Mrs. Bryce Roberts, did you consider yourself as a leader, or always considered yourself as a leader? Or if not, when did you come to that eureka moment? That aha.
Well, I think from childhood, I've always seen myself as a leader. I cannot really talk about a eureka moment per se. And sometimes when I reflect, I think a lot has to do with I was made to feel as a child um, very important. I was made to feel very special. So
Yes.
I think that has added to it. So even when later on in life, from a family standpoint, within my family, that there were challenges, I think that foundation of, hey, girl, you're a special girl, was the overriding principle. There is a
Wow.
statement that goes where I think where it is said the Jesuits have said, but recently I saw it was also that quotation is is also said to come from Aristotle. Give me
Mhm,
the child until he's 7, and I will show you the man. Something to that effect. And
mm,
when I look at myself as a child, I think there was that supportive environment which
mhm,
helped me to recognize that I was special. So,
mm.
so this is why, to answer your question, I think I've recognized myself as a leader from long time.
Wow, wow, wow.
And a lot of this is where the environment comes in. I think the environment was supportive in that regard. I was
Yes.
always making, yes, girl, you're doing good. This is wonderful. So I think that
Um,
supportive environment
yes.
helped. And
Yes.
even when later on in life the environment was not as supportive, I think I shall say the positive damage, quote unquote, was done in the first 7 years. So therefore, that helped me to
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
positive um,
Yeah.
outlook.
Your foundation was solid.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. Your next manuscript. Are you already in the process of writing it?
yes. It's focusing. Well, actually, I am very far ahead in it. It is
Uh-huh.
really, this book focuses on coaching. The other book focuses on leadership. And
Uh,
I had been thinking of putting them as one book. And then I know a number of people do not like reading. I
yes.
thought I didn't want the book to be too big.
Quick.
So
Yes.
this is why I said, let me do it in two parts. So
Yes.
the leading through coaching, and the other element is leadership development with a purpose. So it's really
Awesome.
the other side of this of
Awesome.
that.
Awesome. Awesome. That was the you just named share with us the name of the text and
Yes, well,
that
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of it for now. I mean, it can change, but this is
yes,
what
I
is
know.
in my mind for now. Because actually, I was hoping, well, since last year even, that
Yes.
I would have completed because it's substantially done. I just have a few finishing touches to doing
Awesome.
that.
Awesome. Love that. Um, what would you say would have been the most marked moment in your journey of writing, coaching through leadership?
Marked moment, I really don't know.
Yes, like
I don't know how to answer that.
something okay. It's a memory that each time you look at that book and think about it is like that moment, whether it be a confrontation, a word from someone, or you got up in the middle of the night and something like a set thing or line of action that took place during the process of writing, coaching through leadership. What could have been that? Maybe one or two that you can share.
Well, I really am not sure what I could share in that regard. But even
Yeah.
as you ask the question, what crosses my mind, what the importance of emotions, and which I gave an example in the book about the
Mm,
importance of emotions in coaching. So that is what came to mind. While I do not think it answers your question directly,
yes.
but since it comes to mind, I thought let me just share a little on that.
Yes.
Because I gave the example where a manager were following a session that I was doing, a seminar that I was facilitating. And
Yes.
then I asked the managers, find out from the staff how they could help them. And one of the managers coming back to the session said, boy, I asked my staff that, and the staff said, whatever the person was saying, I was feeling so uncomfortable. It was like I opened a can of worms. I wanted to know how to shut this down. So then what it emphasized to me, so in terms of, as I was writing the book, that for persons to recognize that, particularly when it comes to emotions, we may have stuff, quote unquote, coming out that we may not feel ready to deal with. And
Mhm.
if that is the case, that is where we may seek help from somebody else or even ask the person to if they could speak with a counselor, with somebody else in that regard. That we do not just feel overwhelmed, but at least we recognize again that there is always help around us. So, notwithstanding my limitations, notwithstanding my shortcomings, there are other persons around whom I can refer the individual to.
Absolutely. What would you, in summation of in within one or two sentences, what would you love for persons reading this book to take away and apply to their lives? What would you like for persons to
All
take
right.
away
What I
from
would say, one is for persons reading the book to realize that they are leaders and
it? Mm.
no matter where they find themselves in, and
Yes.
whether or not they have support staff, and
Yes.
wherever they are, even the children, for them to recognize that they are leaders.
Wow.
And two, that recognizing they are leaders, that they have some information, that they have some talent, they have some skill that they
Yes.
could use to help somebody else. So
Yes.
we are all leaders and we could all influence others, just as we are to be open to being influenced by others.
Love that.
And it's
Love.
very important to let our children know that
Yes.
yes, you are a leader. It may be different from the leadership of somebody else, but God has no favorites. So he has
Yes.
placed leadership in all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. I love it. I love it. Two things that stood out to me when you shared there just now. You mentioned whether or not we have a staff.
Mhm.
Be reminded. One, you are a leader, and be open in as much as you are a leader. You still ought to be open to receive. Leaders, as leaders, we give out a lot, but we have to be sure to be open to receive. Thank you so
And may
much,
I
Mr.
just put in a
Roberts.
nugget just quickly?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
just sharing the whole idea of children being leaders. I remember years ago, well, one of my children, who is now in his late 20s, 30s. But when he
Yeah.
was around 7 or 8, he has that technical mind. And I remember my husband was saying that when my husband was trying to fix up one of the children's bicycles, and he'd
Yes.
been struggling to put in a screw. And
Yes.
the child looked at him and he said, Daddy, let me help you. He said the child went left, the child went right, the child took the screw, and there the child put it in. And my husband would have indicated how he'd been struggling with it for some time. And so I'm always reminded of that fact that we all
Yeah.
have different skills. And actually, that child has gone into that technical area. Uh,
Wow.
We all have skills.
Wow, wow, awesome. Thank you for sharing that nugget as we're bringing the curtains down to this afternoon's show. Just as we do, Miss Bryce Roberts, can you share with the audience for me where can they go ahead and grab a copy of Coaching Through Leadership by Euphemia Brice-Roberts?
Okay. And using the exact name, leading through
Ye-
coaching, a practical guide
Yes. Oh
for
my God.
managers and other leaders. No, that's fine. You still
Yes.
along the lines. Yes,
Yes.
it's available on Amazon. It's in the various bookstores, Barnes and Noble. It's also, well, for persons listening in St. Kitts and Nevis, it's in the local bookstores. So one may go online or even get it, to the extent you're St. Kitts and Nevis, you could get it locally.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. It's been a pleasure having you here this afternoon, Mrs. Brice-Roberts. Thank you so much for being our guest today. It's a pleasure learning and just gleaning from some of the wisdom that you would have gathered in your years of living and in your years of serving. Because as leaders, we serve, it's a
Very
position of servitude. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. I'm happy you put that in. Yes, as we come to the close, recognizing it's really about service. And
Yes.
so, as you asked where to get my book, also in terms of getting in touch with me, W on my website, brbusinesscoach.com, brbusinesscoach.com, and there are the links to YouTube and Facebook from there.
Awesome, wonderful. And additional to what Miss Roberts would have shared with you just now, I will also go ahead and add her contact details with this video after we would have closed our broadcast. Thank you so much again, Miss Bryce Roberts, for being here. It's been a pleasure and an honor having you here with us on the Win Win Life talk show and podcast. Do come again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Indeed. We're going to close it out this afternoon, folks. And remember, you are a winner. Please do remember to go ahead and follow us if you're tuning in on Facebook, and subscribe and follow us if you're tuning in on YouTube, and go ahead and share. Share and show some love by hitting that like button. Okay, have a wonderful rest of the day.